Being a teacher is not easy. I know, understatement of the year. Teachers juggle test score pressure and parent expectations, not to mention a classroom of 20 to 30 young people who would rather be anywhere else. It is easy to get overwhelmed and miss the forest for the trees. That's why we're here. We're getting to the root of the issues facing educators today, connecting teachers with experts, and finding resources and solutions. Through conversations with our guests, and hopefully you as well, we'll all learn and grow together. From the little saplings to the tallest oaks, this is Growing the Forest and the Trees, Big Pictures and Everyday Realities, a podcast from the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences at Troy University. I'm Dr. Shirley Farrell, here with my co-host, Dr. Lisa Etheridge. Earlier this year, the state of Alabama banned cell phones in public schools, with many saying the phones are a distraction to students. But others say phones should be allowed for educational purposes and in case of emergencies. Dr. Eric Mackey is the Alabama State Superintendent of Education. He is a lifelong educator and former science teacher. He's in favor of the ban. He'll tell us why and talk about the challenges and the opportunities technology presents in public education.
And my goals really for the state are for us to lift up opportunities for young people. As I say all the time, we're about creating opportunities for young people. That's what teachers do. That's what school administrators do. And young people would not have the opportunities they do except for school. And for 90% of our students in this state who go to public schools, they depend on public schools to give them those opportunities. So really when I think about the future, it's what can we do to give our students more opportunities so they're ready for the really good jobs of the 2030s, 2040s, 2050s, and beyond? How are we going to make sure that as we draw in competitive economic opportunities, that our students are ready to take those jobs? So we're talking about high-tech jobs. We're also talking about clean manufacturing jobs. We're talking about environmental jobs. We're talking about scientific jobs. But we're also talking about the arts and sciences and the things that enrich us as a society. We want our students to be able to grab those very best jobs. And we want our students, some of them, I want as many as will to stay in Alabama. But, there are really good jobs in places like Atlanta, New York, and Dubai. And we want our students to compete for those jobs, too. There's nothing that makes me more proud than a student who goes off and they do something they maybe 20 years earlier never thought possible, but now they're 25, 30 years old, and they've got an opportunity of a lifetime because of a really good educational system that gave them those opportunities. And then I know it's a long answer to the question, but you ask, well, what are we doing to support that? And that's about getting really good teachers in the classroom, really good principals in our schools, giving them the support they need, whether that's professional development, access to really good materials that have been well vetted, good policies and practices, paying them well so that we encourage and keep those people in our classrooms.
So you mentioned about providing the support for teachers, but what is the state doing to support teachers facing challenges such as burnout and especially those teachers in high-need schools?
Yeah, good question, because the challenge changes, obviously, from school to school and from teacher to teacher, classroom to classroom even. But we're seeing more and more. Now, I have a little bit of hope, a ray of sunshine just in the last 12 to 18 months that we are hearing from teachers that things are beginning, not completely, but beginning to return to kind of a more normal cycle post-COVID. What we saw, I think, in COVID was that the worst storm of all came about. We had some of the most difficult challenges health-wise. We had difficult challenges finance-wise. Teachers were trying to teach, in many cases, teach an in-person class and an online class. When students did come back, student attendance never got back to the point it was before, and student mental health issues had really grown, partially maybe because of COVID, but also because of the explosion of social media in the last decade, and particularly of social media during COVID. We know now that during COVID, people, their use of social media, students and adults, it just exploded because now all of a sudden they had all this time. So those have caused us a lot of distress among students. So now we got two things. Here's where I'm going. Okay, we got two kinds of burnout. We've got teachers who taught for decades and everything was going great, and now the world changed and they don't know how to shift and change to the new world. And then we've got young people coming out who are 23, 24 years old who really weren't prepared for the kinds of challenges they're seeing in the classroom. So there's several things we've done. One, we've worked with a lot of our local school districts during the last 3 years to provide some ESSER support, using ESSER funds to support, to provide mental health supports for teachers, to give them a counselor, to give them someone to talk to, in some cases to give them some more deep therapy. And that seems to have worked. But more specifically, what we're hearing from teachers is what they really need are for parents to trust them and to be engaged in the learning process. So one of the things we're working on right now in our teacher certification office and throughout the department is trying to help create new strategies for how we get parents to trust teachers again, which is a real problem, and for how those teachers can participate in that by communicating well with parents. Many times we think we're communicating, but we're not. And parents sometimes distrust what's going on at school because they see these awful, again, social media stories. So they think terrible things are going on that are not going on. But then when the parents and teachers do get together, there's this immediate feel of distrust of one another. We got to get through that. The only way really to get through that is communication, building relationships. And then the other thing I would say is, we got to get teachers back to focusing on students. It's easy to focus on all the adult problems, and we all have adult problems. But teachers, by and large, they went into teaching because they love kids and they want to help young people excel and succeed in life. And I think we have to help teachers regain that vision, that feeling of that passion of helping young people to succeed in life.
I agree. I think social media has created more problems than it has given us positive outcomes. And so I think helping the parents know the teachers, know the school, we're for the kids. We're not against each other.
Yeah, one of the things I've really pushed, and I'm going to be pushing in this next session, is a real discussion about taking cell phones away from kids during the school day. I really would like for all of our schools to be cell phone free zones, and also how can we limit social media? Now, that's pretty fraught with controversy. There are states, Florida, closest to us, that have said we're not going to let students under 14 even have a social media account. Now, people say, oh, there's a way around. Well, of course there's a way around it. There's a way around the speed limit. But it puts something on parents if they have to sign off for their child to have a TikTok account. And we need to do that, I think. We don't need students that are 11, 12 years old running around on TikTok. And we don't need them constantly with a phone. Now, I've said this before, and I believe it, parents are more addicted to the phones than the kids are. And we have to also help the parents know that if your child's going to go for 8 hours without a phone, you got to support us by not trying to text and call your child during the day, not texting and calling the teacher during the day unless it's a true emergency. And we as adults, we teachers have to model that too. I find myself also, always wanting to reach for my phone because we have become addicted to immediate notification. And, if we're going to expect students to do better, we as adults have to do better too.
Absolutely. So just for clarification, with having cell phone free schools, that doesn't mean internet free, does it?
Oh no, absolutely not. So that's why I think we can get there. We can take cell phones devices away from children, and they'll still be fine because we now have one-to-one computers in essentially all of our schools. We have Wi-Fi capacity in all of our schools, and so we'll still have constant connectivity. We want that connectivity. The problem's really not the cell phone. The problem is the social media. As is, I didn't make this up myself, but I thought it was the most profound statement that I heard a speech, and somebody said, think about when you were back in elementary school, old people like myself, what if they told you you could bring your TV, weighed 400 pounds, but you could bring your TV with you, you could bring a radio in the class with you, you could bring your telephone. You had to plug it into the wall, but you could bring your telephone in and put that on your desk too. Now, how would you have done as a student? Well, wouldn't have done all that well, but that's what they are. Smartphones are not phones. They are televisions, radios, communication devices, game systems, all built into one handheld device. And I think that's the message we as adults have missed, that it's not about giving students phones, it's about giving students this huge communication conglomerate and then asking 11-year-olds to be able to manage all of that, which their brains just aren't ready to do.
Continuing to talk about technology, not so much on cell phone basis, but just with the post-COVID era and coming back, and you're seeing that shift because we went online and learning how to flip that classroom. So where do you see technology going in the realm of the classroom today?
Oh, glad to talk about that because I've talked some about the negatives. There are so many positives with modern technology. So one, it's made the world a lot smaller. Students today, again, just comparing years ago, you had to go to a library or to an encyclopedia or something if you wanted to know a little bit about how people in Bhutan lived, this remote mountainous country that is in the Himalayas. So you just didn't know that. Now you can go onto YouTube, you can see videos, you can actually see, you can get live broadcasts from there. You can learn more about the language, the people, the culture. So students now have the opportunity to have the whole world at their fingertips. That is a huge change from even 10 years ago where we were, certainly from 20 or 30 years ago. So I think it allows our students now to become more global-minded, to think about what the rest of the world looks like. But it's not just cultures, but those are scientific discoveries. Those are fields of study that a student may not have been able to access. So let's just pick one. Let's pick astronomy. Let's say, there are not many elementary high schools that have a teacher who's really into astronomy. Most are not going to be. So they might have had one class in it, but that's all. But if we have a student who's, say, 16 years old, and they really, really, really are into astronomy, now they can go online again. They can download apps. They can look on the internet. There's so many things they can do. They can almost become a specialist in that field on their own as a side course. And so I think we want to encourage that kind of creativity and curiosity in young people, and technology gives us an opportunity to do that. Teachers, in many ways, become the facilitators to do that. A teacher can help a student pursue safely their own passions inside and outside of class, whether that's through special projects or it's through projects that are extracurricular. And teachers have to bring those things into the classroom too. So the opportunity to help students broaden their minds and broaden their horizons through technology. We've never had that before. It's a great opportunity for the future. It's something we certainly need to do. And again, I would say, going back to what I was mentioned earlier, we just need to broaden their minds beyond TikTok. It's got to be more than just a 30-second video. And that's one of the dangers, is that you really can't delve into a subject on 30-second videos. So we got to help students understand, how do you use this wonderful technology we have to dig deeper and learn more.
Excellent. And I agree with everything you said. I remember back in the days you talked about, you were in school. Remember the reel-to-reel?
Oh, yeah.
Remember those? And so I'm like, this has come so far advanced. I would love to be back in the classroom to do some of these things now.
Yeah, I think I probably read 90% of the World Book Encyclopedia. I was just that kind of kid. But, it was already out of date by the time I was reading it.
That's right.
What I'm also hearing is using that technology is a great way to have more personalized, student-centered learning experiences and meeting the needs, I've got to throw it in, of our gifted students as well.
Yeah, so again, a great segue there, because gifted is one of those categories of young people where we've always struggled, because part of the giftedness is helping those students pursue their own interest and, again, curiosity. And so teachers traditionally have been pretty limited about what they could do. Even when I was a school principal, had a great gifted specialist, just a wonderful specialist, and her expertise was there in helping students. But she pretty much had to take students to the library. They were limited to what books we had in our library, or maybe the city public library. So there was still great limitation as to how a student could explore his or her own interest. With technology, those barriers are essentially broken down completely. Now a student can say, my interest is, I want to study this particular insect that's in Central America, and I want to know everything I can know about that insect. Well, again, 20 years ago, everything you could learn about that insect might be one article in the library. Now it's unlimited what you can do. And speaking of that, just thinking about, that takes me to another thought. A great American, a great Alabamian who's now passed on, E.O. Wilson, kind of grew up that way. E.O. Wilson got interested in these fire ants that we all hate, but he turned that into obviously a sociological study. He became not only one of the greatest biologists in the history of the world, but one of the greatest sociologists in the history of the world. He kept pursuing his passion. Now, he did that in the old days, books and papers, and went to the University of Alabama and to Harvard. But for most people, that was not accessible during his time. And he would say that. For most people, that was not an accessible journey. Today, that could be an accessible journey for dozens of people at the same time.
Absolutely. And even today, these students can contact the scientists that are out in the field looking at that insect or the ants.
Yeah, they can go back and forth in almost nonstop. And we even have folks who are doing live broadcasts back and forth, 5,000 miles away. And again, something that we could not have conceived even a few years ago. So what we hope that does is help students open their minds to this larger world and all the possibilities there are out there for jobs and careers, but also just for personal development and growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to end. This will be our last question for you today. I oversee the Ed Specialist programs, which include the Teacher Leader program for Troy University. And so one of the big topics that we talk about a lot is advocating. Yeah. Advocating for our students, advocating for our teachers, advocating for our schools and districts. What do you suggest of how to advocate? And are there some avenues or special ways that we can advocate?
What a great question. Yes. Number one Get those people in your schools. Legislators need to come into schools. We need our also local policymakers, city council people, county commissioners. They need to see what's going on in the school. I never leave a school when I bring in a group of adults that they don't leave amazed by what's going on. They talk about, I didn't know this was happening in our schools, in my community. I didn't know we were offering this. I was in a school just today, and you see engagement, you see learning, you see high-tech stuff, you see really challenging work going on, you see teachers who are working with students who have very unique needs, maybe in wheelchair, they don't speak English, have medical conditions, but you also see students building green-powered go-karts, and there's so many things going on. And I think that one of our problems is that in many cases our policymakers, lawmakers, they don't really know what's going on in school. And that's on us as educators. We got to get people into schools to see the great things that are happening, to understand what the challenges are, because there are challenges, but also what the opportunities are. And I think you can't spend a day with young people and not capture, or I can't spend a day with young people and not capture that energy and passion for life. People need to experience that. Every generation of Americans, in fact, I would say it goes back, I think we have evidence back to ancient Greece. Pretty much every generation has thought the next generation will be our downfall and ruin. But it never happens. The next generation always actually pushes us further and takes us to new heights. And that's what's happening today. We got a great generation of young people in our schools, and they're going to take us to places we've never been before. But we got to give them opportunities. That means we got to fund programs for them. We got to get really good teachers in the classroom. We got to get really good leaders. So my thing is experience. You got to experience it. Come in and experience what a school really is.
Yes. And it will be life-changing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And we would love to have you back again.
I'll have to come back again, but these are hard questions. I'll have to take a little time and get ready. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Our guest today has been Dr. Eric Mackey, Alabama State Superintendent of Education. We hope you'll share this podcast with the teachers in your life and give us a review or rating on the podcast platform of your choice. Growing the Forest and the Trees is a production of Troy Public Radio and the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences at Troy University. For Lisa Etheridge, I'm Shirley Farrell. We'll see you again next time on Growing the Forest and the Trees, the big picture and everyday realities.